principal goal of education is to create citizens who are capable of doing new things, not simply of repeating what other generations have done. Citizens who are creative, inventive, and discoverers. The information age has introduced instant access to knowledge, but are contemporary classrooms taking advantage of digital devices and their access to the internet?
Today's average college grads have spent less than 5,000 hours of their lives reading, but over 10,000 hours playing video games, not to mention 20,000 hours watching TV. Computer games, email, the internet, cell phones, and instant messaging are integral parts of their lives.
In 1951, Carl Rogers advocated for student-centered learning, recognizing that individual learners interact with content in different ways, based on their background and experiences. Laptops and the digital medium increase the accessibility to content, such as digital text, which allows for increased font size or text-to-speech. In addition to aiding those who have impaired sight, this change of medium can benefit those who have a different preferred learning style. Ignacia Estrada pointed out, if children don't learn the way we teach, maybe we should teach the way they learn.
What is the Google effect again? Oh yeah, it's the tendency to forget information that can be found readily online by using internet search engines such as Google. Living in the information age, graduates will have continuous access to lifetimes of information. Today's classrooms can focus on higher order skill development instead of rote memorization, focusing less on how to remember information and more on where to find credible sources. Alberta Education also agrees with this philosophy, advocating for lifelong learners in their Inspiring Education report.
Standing on the shoulders of giants. This is the idiom Google puts underneath the search bar on their Scholar page, but are we really standing on the shoulders of giants, or are we using them as crutches? There is by no means a consensus among experts regarding the notion that using and relying on these sorts of digital technologies improves student learning or their ability to learn. In his book Eye Disorder, Dr. Larry Rosen identifies symptoms and behaviors caused by the perpetual use of digital technology and parallels them with symptoms of psychological disorders outlined in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. He argues that our mental malleability has allowed extensive interaction with digital media to rewire our brains in ways that aren't necessarily advantageous.
Another way that technology is rewiring our brain is by making us accustomed to instant gratification of electronic experiences. Children who learn to postpone the gratification of immediate rewards for a bigger payoff down the road stand a much better chance at succeeding scholastically and at coping with frustration and stress. By allowing our children to become addicted to the dopamine squirts caused by the instant gratification of electronic experiences, we handicap them from being able to remain resilient in situations where gratification is much further away.
As evident in recent media headlines, one of the primary concerns with in-class laptop usage is the increased potential for distraction. An empirical investigation of over 12,000 college students found that the majority of students were using their laptops for non-educational purposes, such as checking social media and playing fun games.
Multitasking takes time and effort to refocus after switching from one task to another, creating a negative impact on the learning and productivity that should occur in the classroom.
Multitasking can impair classroom performance by fragmenting student attention, which decreases engagement with the primary task of learning activities. Comprehension has been shown to decline with multitasking and can also hinder the learning of peers who are seated in view of the multitasking student.
Countless schools and school districts are implementing small pilot or full-grade one-to-one programs. Regardless of such conclusions, we have to look at the pragmatic aspects.
The Alberta Emerge program, a study that funded various laptop programs in 20 school districts, stated that one of the top issues was the challenge of sustaining the model without continued financial support. As well, in 2008, the ATA surveyed a sample of district IT coordinators, school IT lead teachers, and administrators. The survey revealed that up to 10% of a school's budget is now dedicated to sustaining the school's IT capacity, a figure that is low by current industry standards. Increasingly, jurisdictions are having to bear these costs in the absence of adequate provincial funding.
For a fully funded program, costs range from the physical devices to training with the devices. In addition, support staff must be hired to maintain wireless networks and infrastructure. For hybrid programs, having students supply their own devices is appealing because educational technology is costly and needs to be replaced frequently. This may create a have-have-not environment with some students on the opposite side of the digital divide, as they can't afford new devices. With all this variety, software and components will need some degree of standardization. Lastly, some laptops are harder to upgrade as they are designed to be replaced outright. Desktops are easier to future-proof because they can be upgraded.
Even in the face of empirical validity regarding the harm digital devices can do to our brains, their distracting capacity, and the financial burden they could impose on schools, these devices are a reality in our culture. Technology isn't going to transform how students learn unless schools shift their way of thinking around what they do. Using the internet to look up stuff isn't good enough.
Educators need to design learning outcomes that incorporate digital devices. Trung and Swershik found that there's a discrepancy between graduate skill levels and employers' hiring requirements. Incorporating digitally driven learning activities into the student's classroom experience can further students' digital competencies, making them more competitive candidates for employers. Students need to prepare for jobs that don't yet exist, where they'll use technologies that haven't yet been invented, in order to solve problems that we don't even know are problems yet.